the men warming up. 11 lifters, 4 from Europe, 2 from Qatar, 2 from Armenia, and 2 from China. And this was a little earlier today. This is Ili Kazan, Răzvan Ili from Romania in the B group earlier today. The snatch, and not before in this championship have we had one. We've had several lifters in the B group who we discovered have been in the A group, and he lifts that snatch at 170 kilos to take a new world record. He takes it away from Kapanikyan of Armenia, who snatched 168.5 kilos in the European Championships earlier this year in May. Well, once again, good evening. I'm David Goldstrom. Alongside me, David Morgan, veteran of 5, is it?
7
Commonwealth, 7 Commonwealth Games, and who knows, even an 8th one. As we look at this...
Sorry, 7 Commonwealth medals, 5 Commonwealth Games. And
5 Commonwealth Games.
And I don't think it will be a 6th one.
Badir of Qatar, the first of their 2 men. Andrei Ivanov until a couple of weeks ago. And 155. And that should be well within his compass. We've got him down with our Bulgarian colleagues as capable of certainly 162.5. So a very safe opener there.
Yes, usually gets all his attempts in. Nice solid start there.
Well, this competition, this snatch competition of men 77 kilos, which you join us for, is really coming to the boil now. Everybody's opened up, the 10 lifters in what is a very competitive category, 170 pounds, 12 stone, over 12 stone. And this is one of the 2 men from Qatar who, until a couple of weeks ago, had a Bulgarian name and represented Bulgaria. This is Nader, the lesser of the 2 in terms of achievement so far, Sufyan, and he fails his 3rd snatch there. 157.5 he's got, but unfortunately not able to go any further. There's the stats on the bottom there. The Bulgarians who sold a group of, not to be disrespectful to them, David, 2nd string lifters, although you could hardly call Peter Tanev, who's in this competition also for Qatar, under his new name of Naif Salim Badir, for allegedly some $1 million. And now they find themselves up against their own teammates of just a few weeks ago. And this is Vanev, I should say, the world title holder, on for his 3rd lift.
Well, that's a real setback for him.
Well, it is, because he's left on 157.5 kilos, and I would think, David, that his destiny rests entirely now on how much further the rest can go away from him.
That's right, and I should think that a lot of these athletes will have had a sigh of relief with the man who broke the world record earlier not managing to get a total, because even if he'd just managed his opener at 200, that would have taken him to 370.
Yes, and 370 is only 2.5 kilos behind the world standard. Nobody's ever achieved that, and we'll just have to wait and see whether anybody's really going to get near that. But there's quite a few lifts to come. You've really joined us at exactly the right point, because the cards are really beginning to be played. Now, this is Vanev's teammate, Yeliashkov, the European silver medalist this year, who was convincingly beaten by Bursky of his own teammate from Bulgaria, which forced him to move up. And it could well be that Bulgaria's hopes are now going to rest on his shoulders. This is his 2nd attempt, 165, to go 2nd to the man who lifted earlier. That's very good.
Yes, and this increase in body weight is reflecting in increased poundages. That's 5 kilos more than he lifted as a 69 kilo lifter, and he still has 1 attempt left.
Well, I just need to do a little bit of maths here, because the thing is that Răzvan Ili of Romania, he weighed in today at 76.75, whereas Yelyashkov, who's just made that successful lift, weighed in at 76.85. So that means that, in fact, that man who you just saw there, Yelyashkov, would have to go and break the world record, the new world record, to actually get ahead. He'd have to go to
172.5.
Exactly. An 11.5 kilo increase. Big question, that. This is Turkey's Yilmaz.
Yes, and the trouble is, I don't think anybody will really be feeling like taking an extravagant jump, because, as you say, this is such a close competition. 2.5 kilos or even body weight could mean dropping 3 or 4 places.
In other words, everybody's got to think of the end game. Victor Mitru, well, he looked very good, I thought, on the first lift, but 160, now to 165. Now, Mitru, by contrast with Tanev, or Badir as we should call him, from Qatar, is actually lighter. So this means that he could get ahead of the Romanian, who leads the competition from the B group, if he lifts this and next time exceeds at 170.
Well, that's the best I've seen him, David. That's the best I've seen this man lift.
Well, on the way up here to our commentary position, I passed a very good colleague of ours, Nikos Sonis, the head of sport for Greek television here, and he sort of said, Mitru. And I said, well, we haven't seen much of him this year, and he said, he's prepared for this silently, quietly, and the 2 lifts he's put in so far do suggest that he's in good form. So from Europe now to Asia, and 19-year-old Li Hongli, the junior world champion. They think a lot of this young man, but he's surpassing now his junior world record if he lifts this. Junior world record of 165 kilos.
Yes, he's not explosive, he's just incredibly strong.
Well, he's got one more chance, but of course that's a setback to put him on terms with the Romanian.
So big jump for Tanev. Although of course it's not Tanev.
No, it's Badir.
Badir.
27 years of age. Most of the Bulgarians, including these men who now live for Qatar, to be honest, are still in Bulgaria and they're training there. It all went through, I must say, amazingly quickly. 4 months to change nationality, get Olympic accreditation and everything else. But the motivation for the Bulgarians is to earn money with which they can prepare for their Olympic challenge in Sydney. The motivation for Qatar, get medals at the Olympic Games to put their country on the map.
Well, that's a surprise, David. I thought they were asking too much of him. But look at that. That was fantastic.
Well, it
really does get under that bar quick. Of course, you see, the first phase, you're just creating momentum. And then the quicker you can get under. I mean, the idea is to get under the bar before it starts travelling back down towards the platform. And he does that very well. And I believe that's a personal best for him.
I'm sure it is. 157.5 he lifted in in May in the Europeans. Big improvement. Now, Zhang Zhugang, Olympic champion at 70 kilos. Third attempt. Come on, Zhang. And that drops him down to 162.5. See, that leaves him 7.5 kilos behind the Romanian. And absolutely right, when he failed to get that total, failed on all 3 clean and jerks, the Romanian, they all must have breathed a massive sigh of relief. Yilmaz of Turkey, and 165 kilos on the bar. Third and final attempt.
Yes, he's done this weight before. Looks strong enough.
But he does have this worrying habit of missing a high percentage of lifts. He's got a high, you know, very few does he make. There's another one. And Turkey, a great force during the early 90s. Mutlu was bursting on the scene, Naim Suleimanoglu at the height of his powers, but they're a shadow of their former selves at the moment, and I think it's too little time to turn the situation around before the Olympics. I think if Suleimanoglu, if his comeback preparation continues and Mutlu stays fit and healthy, those are their two chances. But for the next Olympic cycle, they're going to have to rebuild the team. Meanwhile, this is Lee, second attempt at a junior world record, and out the back again.
Yeah, I really must get a spirit level to that platform, David. I've never seen, ever, so many people losing weights behind. And it's happening in both the men and the women.
Record holder, 31-year-old Kakatur Kapanixian from Armenia. Really experienced. He's been on the team for over 15 years. Kapanixian with 162.5, so this is a 5-kilo increase. And he weighed in at 76.77, which, frustratingly for him, is fractionally heavier, because Razvan Ili of Romania, 76.75. So he'd have to go to 172.5 if he's successful after this.
Well, that puts him into the silver medal position anyway, and still one lift remaining, so he has to make the decision. Does he take 170 and settle for perhaps the silver, but, you know, add another 2.5 kilos to go towards that total, or does he go for the gold with 172.5? Big decision.
There's Mitru with a lift, and Yeliashkov with a lift, and Kapanixian with one lift as well. So it's very important how the cards are played now. The coach is really watching the tactics, and as you say, they've got to keep Razvan Ili's performance in mind all the time. So Mitru, 167.5, weighed in at 76.67. So that's lighter than Kapanixian. And it's lighter than Yeliashkov, but he can't reach the Romanian even if he gets this. And the first mistake, and it leaves Mitru on 165 kilos. So it's Razvan Ili of Armenia in the lead, and then Kapanixian, and then for Qatar, it's Badir, formerly Peter Tanev. And so, with Mitru having lifted out, there are just 2 lifts to go, Kapanixian and Yeliashkov.
Well, the bar's now gone to 170 kilos.
So here's Yeliashkov, 170 kilos. Now, he weighed in at 76.85. This is heavier than Razvan Ili. So even if he lifts this, this is only good enough for silver. But it's exactly what you said earlier, David. They're looking at the end game, winning the overall title.
That's right.
Because they know that once the snatch is over, they can discount the Romanian. Can he lift it?
Yeah.
So the man who's moved up has taken over from the man who held the title, his own Zlatan Vanev teammate, and Yeliashkov it is, who moves up now into the silver medal position.
Yes, and he certainly looks a lot better at this body weight than he did at 69. It really suits him.
I think there's a world record coming. I think Kapanixian, well, Now this is really interesting. Going for the world record at the moment at 170.5, but it wouldn't give him the gold medal. What do you make of that?
Well, this is what we talked about before. It's crazy that somebody can break the world record, but of course that half a kilo doesn't count in the competition. It's only counted as 170, and if the other person that snatched to be lighter, then okay, you get the world record, but they get the gold medal. It's crazy.
Yes, he would have to go to 172.5 kilos if he wanted to get the gold medal, and obviously he realises his own limitations. So he said, well, I'll have the record, but worth it because it's going to keep him on terms with Kapanitsian. I should say he's going to keep him on terms with Yelyashkov of Bulgaria.
It's quite confusing to explain this to the layman. I won the silver, but I broke the world record. Oh, well, there it is.
Well, Russ Van Illy has held the world record, taking it away from this man for what? Something like 2.5 hours more, and Kapanitsian has got his record back. 168 it was, and he's taken it to 170.5, and the Romanian's moment of glory is now over. Having said that,
he still has the gold medal.
The gold medal is some consolation prize for the Romanian, and he'll be on stage for the prize giving a little later. So, the gold medal in the snatch goes to Russ Van Illy. Kapanitsian takes the silver, Yelyashkov takes the bronze, and we'll be back with part 2, the clean and jerk, after these messages here on Eurosport. Yelyashkov is currently, David, languishing in 10th place. In fact, he's further down than that because he hasn't really got a successful lift in on the clean and jerk, so he hasn't got a total at the moment. But he's going for 197.5. So this would give him 360.5.
Which would in fact put him in the lead at the moment.
Yes, that would put him 5 kilos ahead of Mitru again.
Needs to hold.
Oh, he won't have been happy having to hang that bar on his head for such a long time. Now, he goes ahead of Mitru. The only thing is that Mitru is lighter, so even though it's still the 5 kilo advantage, Mitru's